Have you ever wondered where the line is drawn between self-confidence and narcissism? This question, though seemingly simple, leads us into a complex labyrinth of human psychology. The journey through this labyrinth, however, is not one to be feared, but embraced, as it holds the keys to understanding our attitudes towards ourselves and others. Let's first consider the spectrum of confidence. This spectrum, like a rainbow, is vast and varied, stretching from one end, marked by low self-esteem, through the middle, characterized by healthy self-confidence, and finally to the other end, dominated by narcissism. Each point on this spectrum reflects a different level of self-perception, self-worth, and interaction with the world around us. Low self-esteem, the starting point of our spectrum, is often typified by self-doubt, a sense of unworthiness, and a tendency to underestimate one's abilities. Moving forward, we reach the domain of healthy self-confidence. This is a balanced state where individuals recognize their worth, acknowledge their strengths, and accept their weaknesses without allowing these to overshadow their sense of self. This is the sweet spot we all aspire to reach. Yet as we venture further along the spectrum, we arrive at a territory marked by narcissism. Here, self-confidence has morphed into something darker. Narcissism is not just an inflated sense of self-confidence. It's a trait characterized by an excessive need for admiration, a disregard for others' feelings, and an inability to handle any criticism. Narcissism, unlike healthy self-confidence, can be harmful, leading to strained relationships and a distorted sense of self. But how do we distinguish between healthy self-confidence and narcissism? How do we identify these traits in ourselves and others? These are the questions we aim to answer as we delve deeper into this fascinating topic. Remember, the goal is not to stigmatize or shame, but to enlighten. It's about fostering understanding and promoting self-reflection. So let's embark on this exploration and understand where true self-confidence ends and narcissism begins. Self-confidence is like a sturdy building, based on a foundation of self-awareness and self-acceptance. This analogy is not only poetic, but profoundly true. Just as a building requires a sturdy foundation to withstand storms and earthquakes, self-confidence requires a solid base of self-awareness and self-acceptance to endure life's challenges. Imagine a young woman named Emily, who, despite being an accomplished pianist, is riddled with self-doubt. She constantly compares herself to other musicians, believing she falls short. However, one day Emily decides to confront her fears. She starts by acknowledging her feelings of self-doubt, becoming self-aware of her negative thought patterns. This is the first step towards building her self-confidence. Emily then moves on to the next step, self-acceptance. She takes a deep breath and, looking at her reflection, says, "I am an accomplished pianist. I may not be the best, but I am talented and passionate." This moment of self-acceptance is transformative for Emily. She starts to see herself not as a failure, but as a talented individual with unique strengths and weaknesses. And that's the third pillar of self-confidence, acknowledging one's weaknesses. Emily knows she is not the best pianist, and she's okay with that. She recognizes that she has room to grow and improve, and this doesn't diminish her self-confidence. Instead, it fuels it. She knows she's not perfect, and she embraces this fact. She turns her weaknesses into opportunities for growth, and this gives her the courage to perform her music without fear of judgment. Just like Emily, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. When we become self-aware, accept our strengths, and acknowledge our weaknesses, we lay the foundation for genuine self-confidence. It's not about pretending to be perfect or putting on a facade. It's about recognizing our worth, embracing our imperfections, and using them as stepping stones towards growth and improvement. As we journey through life, let's remember Emily's story. It's a reminder that self-confidence is not about being flawless. It's about knowing who you are, acknowledging where you fall short, and accepting yourself regardless. True self-confidence is not about being perfect, but about recognizing and accepting one's imperfections. On the other hand, narcissism is like a mirage in the desert, appearing attractive from a distance, but devoid of substance upon closer inspection. Imagine walking through a bustling city where a man named Richard stands out. He's charismatic, seemingly self-assured, and radiates an aura of importance. Richard is always the center of attention, and he wouldn't have it any other way. But what seems like an abundance of confidence is in reality a manifestation of narcissism. Narcissism is characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance. Richard, for instance, believes he is superior, that he is extraordinary and unique. He expects others to recognize his perceived superiority. This, however, is not the same as having a healthy self-esteem. Where self-esteem is grounded in reality, the narcissist's self-importance is inflated and unmoored from reality, like a balloon floating aimlessly in the sky. Moreover, a defining trait of narcissism is a lack of empathy. While Richard can charm the socks off anyone, he struggles to truly connect with others. He fails to recognize or understand the feelings and needs of those around him. Empathy, the ability to step into another's shoes, is foreign to him. This absence of empathy creates a chasm between the narcissist and others, a chasm that is often filled with misunderstanding and hurt. Lastly, there is the narcissist's need for excessive admiration. Richard thrives on compliments and adulation. He seeks validation not from within, but from the external world. His self-worth is contingent upon the admiration he receives from others, making it as unstable as a house of cards. These characteristics, an inflated sense of self-importance, a lack of empathy, and a need for excessive admiration, are the pillars of narcissism. They paint a picture of an individual who, like a mirage, seems appealing from afar, but upon closer inspection, reveals a lack of substance and authenticity. Narcissism is not about self-love, but about an inflated self-image that often masks deep-seated insecurities. How does self-confidence and narcissism affect our relationships with others? This is a question that we must address to understand the dynamics of our personal and professional relationships better. When we have a healthy sense of self-confidence, we tend to cultivate positive relationships. We feel secure in who we are, and we don't feel the need to constantly prove ourselves or seek validation. This security allows us to be open, receptive and empathetic, fostering meaningful connections with others. Consider the story of Jane, for example. Jane's self-confidence allows her to accept criticism without feeling personally attacked, enabling her to grow and adapt. It also allows her to appreciate the achievements of her colleagues without feeling threatened, fostering a harmonious and supportive work environment. On the other hand, narcissism often leads to toxic dynamics. A narcissist's constant need for admiration and validation can drain those around them. They may manipulate others to maintain their inflated sense of self, creating a cycle of emotional abuse. For instance, let's look at John. John's narcissism makes him belittle his co-workers to feel superior, causing tension and resentment in the workplace. His relationships are often strained as he struggles to see beyond his own needs and desires. It's important to note that these examples are not absolutes. Not every self-confident person is a Jane, and not every narcissist is a John. People are complex, and these traits can manifest in a multitude of ways. But these examples provide us with a general understanding of how self-confidence and narcissism can impact relationships. Recognizing these patterns in ourselves and others is the first step in addressing them. If we see traits of narcissism in ourselves, we can seek help and work towards change. If we see them in others, we can set boundaries to protect ourselves. Remember, healthy self-confidence is about understanding and accepting our worth, not inflating it. It's about respecting others, not using them. It's about fostering positive relationships, not toxic ones. The way we see ourselves has a profound impact on how we relate to others. How can we ensure that our self-confidence doesn't cross over into narcissism? The journey towards self-understanding is one that requires constant self-reflection. It's a process of digging deep, peeling back the layers of our personality, and examining our thoughts and actions with a critical eye. It's about acknowledging our strengths with humility, recognizing our weaknesses without self-deprecation, and understanding that both are integral parts of our identity. But let's talk about the elephant in the room: narcissism. It's a term that's often misunderstood and even more frequently misused. Narcissism isn't about self-confidence, it's about self-obsession. It's not about recognizing our worth, it's about overvaluing ourselves at the expense of others. So how do we navigate this fine line? Here's where personal growth comes into play. It's about evolving beyond our comfort zones, challenging our beliefs and reshaping our attitudes. One of the ways to facilitate personal growth is through introspection. It's a quiet contemplation where we question our motivations, consider our actions, and evaluate our impact on others. Introspection is a powerful tool that helps us distinguish between healthy self-confidence and narcissism. Another strategy is through active empathy, which involves putting ourselves in someone else's shoes and understanding their perspective. It's about recognizing and respecting the feelings and experiences of others, even if they're different from our own. This practice helps us avoid the trap of self-centeredness that characterizes narcissism. But remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that requires patience and persistence. It's about making small adjustments in our thoughts and actions, and over time, these small changes can lead to significant transformation. Lastly, let's not forget the power of feedback. Constructive criticism can be a great reality check. It helps us see ourselves from a different perspective and provides valuable insight into areas we need to work on. It's through continuous self-reflection and personal growth that we can cultivate true self-confidence. It's about striking a balance, valuing ourselves without disregarding others, acknowledging our worth without inflating it. That's the mark of true self-confidence. So, where do you stand on the spectrum of confidence? This is a question that we've dissected and pondered over the course of our journey, and it's one that should continue to resonate within you as you navigate your relationships and personal growth. Let's take a moment to recapitulate the key points we've discussed. We began by exploring the concept of the spectrum of confidence, from healthy self-confidence to narcissism. We learned that self-confidence is rooted in self-awareness, self-acceptance, and a balanced sense of self-worth. It's an enduring belief in one's abilities, a respect for others, and a willingness to learn and grow. On the other hand, we discovered that narcissism is a facade, a mirage that conceals deep-seated insecurities. It's characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a constant need for validation, and a disregard for other people's feelings and perspectives. We also delved into the impact these traits have on relationships. We saw that while healthy self-confidence fosters mutual respect and understanding, narcissism leads to toxic dynamics, fostering resentment, confusion, and often emotional pain. And most importantly, we discussed the significance of self-reflection and personal growth. Understanding where we fall on this spectrum and recognizing our narcissistic tendencies is the first step towards personal evolution. It's only when we're willing to face our own reflections that we can change what we see. So, as we wrap up this exploration of narcissism versus healthy self-confidence, I hope you walk away with a deeper understanding of yourself and those around you. May the insights you've gained guide you in your interactions, your decisions, and your journey towards personal growth. And remember, it's not just about identifying these traits in others, but also recognizing and addressing them within ourselves. The journey to self-awareness and growth is an ongoing process, one that requires patience, understanding, and most importantly, courage. Remember, it takes courage to be self-confident, but it takes even more courage to recognize and address our narcissistic tendencies.